A U.S. soldier who served nearly 2 months in a South Korean prison for assault escaped from custody and crossed the heavily guarded border into North Korea. Plus, we've got some new developments in Ukraine with a key supply route for the Russian military badly damaged. Joining us right now is Senior Fellow at Defense Priorities and retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Davis. Good morning to you. Good to see you.
Morning, Jan. How are you?
I am doing well. Let's start with what is happening, though, with North Korea, who has detained this U.S. soldier. That soldier was in trouble, likely to face military disciplinary action after serving time in that South Korean prison that we talked about there. He was at the airport, close to clearing customs, we understand, when he somehow escaped and crossed the border into North Korea. Since this is a U.S. soldier, how might that change the U.S.'s approach in handling this matter, do you think?
Well, we're actually finding out this morning some kind of breaking information that in fact this apparently was a planned operation by this soldier, this Private King, who understood that he was going to be facing disciplinary charges in the United States after having spent time already for assault and a couple of assault charges in South Korea. In that he claimed that he got to the boarding gate that he lost his passport and had to be escorted back out through security. And then he had planned on taking a tour from the airport 80 kilometers to the DMZ area there, where then he made a dash across the border. So apparently this was his plan all along. And now then it's a really complicated issue for the United States, because this is the guy that's obviously in somewhat of a trouble and has been a troublemaker, but now it's a big headache for the United States to try to get him back.
Plus, he was in custody. So what happened, do we know, at the airport between the time that
we do, yeah. Because of the laws between the United States military and South Korea, he was escorted up to the security gate, but the United States military police could not go beyond that. So he was on his own from the security gate onward, and then he got an American Airlines private employee to escort him back across, claiming he had to go get his passport, and they didn't know anything about it.
And can you talk to us a little bit about the fact that he spent a couple of months in a South Korean prison before all of this? How unusual is this, especially because he was, like you said, likely to also face disciplinary action from the military when he got back to the States?
Yeah, it's not very common, because most of I was actually stationed in Korea and went to this DMZ area where he ran across, and for the most part, most of our soldiers, behave themselves and take care, because we're in a foreign country. So, they're always talking to the soldiers about, putting on their best behavior. But this soldier apparently had some issues before that, and assaulted a Korean national and did violence to a Korean police station. So this guy's got some issues that have to be dealt with across the border, it looks like.
Well, there is a reason why no one crosses the military demarcation line to go into North Korea. And some question, to what extent would we try to work with North Korea on this, especially during a time of heightened tension over North Korea's nuclear program? And as you mentioned, this was, now as we know, as you have learned, this was somebody who planned this out. How will this play out, do you think?
Well, the United States is going to do everything they can to get him back, as they would for any citizen. This is the first time in 40 years that a military person has made a move to defect to North Korea. And we can expect that North Korea will do everything it can to extract any kind of intelligence information that they could get from him, though as a private, he's not going to have access to very much. And then the second thing that they'll try to do is get any kind of public relations benefit from it if they can. And then once they don't have a use for him, or if they can't get any more benefit, then I think then they'll end up letting him go, and the United States will then take care of matters once he's back in our custody.
Very quickly, I want to touch on Ukraine, because you always have updates for us. We know that the Kerch Bridge that connected Russia to the Ukrainian peninsula of Crimea did come under attack early Monday, and this caused disruptions to a very big key supply route for Moscow's military. This is part of Ukraine's crucial counter-offensive. What are you hearing right now, though, about how this is going for them?
Yeah, oddly enough, it wasn't that serious, and it's a bit of a puzzler as to why Ukraine would do this, because there's two parts of this bridge. There is the roadway for vehicle wheel traffic, and then there's a railroad bridge. And almost all of the military support goes over the railroad bridge, which was not damaged. It was not even attacked. And even the road span has been partially reopened already. They've got ferry service. So the impact is actually pretty minimal. Not only that, the so-called land bridge that so many are talking about that Ukraine wants to sever, is still quite open. And so there's railroad traffic and multiple roads to support throughout that. So this is actually having so far limited to actually no impact on the fighting going on the front.
So right now, Ukraine, as you've said before, still in big trouble.
They are, and as you see, that they are now into their 6th week of this offensive and still have yet to penetrate a single of the first belt of the Russian defense, and have absorbed at least 30% loss of their attacking forces. And it's just not looking good for the rest of the summer for Ukraine, I'm afraid.
So what does this tell you then?
Well, this tells me that Ukraine's going to have to make some hard decisions coming up soon, because there's already movement in the northern part of this zone that Russia has amassed, according to the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense, 100,000 troops for an offensive in a place called the Kupiansk area. And they have started making some offensive moves there. And if Ukraine is not careful, they may have to take some of this power away from their offensive and move it back up north to prevent any kind of a breakthrough by the Russians. So it's a very tenuous time for the Ukraine side right now.
And very quickly, what did you make of President Biden ordering 3,000 reservists to be ready for Europe deployments?
Well, look, this just shows that we have overstretched ourselves, because we put these additional 20,000 troops in Europe when this war broke out, and now we're trying to maintain 100,000. And as detailed in this order that came down, these are enabling forces. They're medical, dental, logistics, supplies, et cetera, to try to keep this force just maintained. These aren't combat troops, but that shows you how much stress it's putting on the system to keep all of those troops over there. And there is no better time than this to recognize that, look, the Europeans need to step up a lot more. This doesn't need to be American put more combat troops or even enablers. If anything, this is that like France and Germany, Italy, UK, they need to be the ones to pony up these troops. This is not an American responsibility.
Lieutenant Colonel Dan Davis, always a pleasure talking to you and getting your expertise and everything. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.